Hello, Fear Hippie here is here, and today we are going to see what appears on my YouTube recommendations. We're going to be watching a discussion in between Kaiser the Bard and uh, Scott Jund, and I've really been looking forward to this video. I've been wanting to watch it. I saw where Kaiser posted something about it coming out here pretty soon, and let's get into some responses.
I am on a mission to get to know as many Dead by Daylight creators as I can. And that's why I started this series, Conversations by the Campfire. If you're not aware of this series, then it's just very simple. I have a few things to talk with my guests about, and then I grab some questions from the community, and then we get them out of here so I can profit off of their name. Scott, you want to introduce yourself just in case for some reason someone doesn't know who you are?
Yeah, sure. My name is Scott Jund. I am a DVD content creator, although I'm sure that's pretty obvious. I am both killer-sided and
There we go.
survivor-sided at the same time, and my opinions are bad.
According
That's
to
true.
Google
You're always
News, all
wrong.
of our opinions are bad. We're all
Yep.
incredibly wrong.
Everybody's always wrong.
Well, you played this game for 10,000 hours. Well, I have played it for 200 hours, and I know more than you.
Pretty much.
Okay, so I thought I would start off a little bit simple. Um, I don't know how many people know this, and I actually got a shock. I was watching the Right Opinion video, and I forget who it was on, but I got jump scared by your name because apparently you used to hang with somebody who like got into controversy, and then like you and like a whole bunch of other people had to drop him. So
Oh, yeah.
you've been a content creator for like a really long time. Do you think you'd ever be able to go back to the workforce, or is this just going to be your life until like you're too old to do it?
Does
Good
too old to
question.
do it exist for streaming? You just sit in your ass and talk. It's not that bad. But I don't see myself doing that. Like I've definitely had normal jobs. I've made and sold games before. I worked at Best Buy, and yeah, it is not as good as streaming.
Yeah.
Definitely not even close. So it would be a pretty unfortunate downgrade.
Yeah, I had to take a couple months off because my finances were tied to content creation, and when you're not making a lot off of it, it's so hard. So
Oh yeah, I can't. The stress is just the stress never goes away. But
I didn't realize Scott was a full-time content creator. I thought he had like a side job as well, because I feel like I guess he does stream a lot, but I always felt like he rarely posted like YouTube videos. Like they come out, but they only feel like that it was only like once a week is when they came out.
by the way, it just even if you get more, it's still like then you have a new baseline, and then you're still stressed about hitting those numbers, and you're just constantly checking how many subs do I have this time. It's just like it never stops.
See, and that's what I think Hins told me. Either Hins or Minskull or somebody. They were telling me that they were like, because like I had a baseline of like 1,000 to 3,000 views a video, and if it wouldn't hit that, I would start panicking. And they were like, yeah, but then if you start hitting 10,000, you're worried about the 10,000. If you start hitting 100,000, you're worried about that.
Yep.
It's
and it literally never ends. It doesn't matter how big you are. It's pretty interesting that we all have the same experience, no matter how big or small. But that stress never goes away, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the next goal is just always different. You know, I have a goal to hit 10,000 subs right now, but once that comes over, who knows what's next?
Yeah, exactly.
What's your biggest?
My current goal on Twitch is 360, so it's not even that big. And that's just to have like followers, not even like subscribers or anything.
Piece of advice for content creators who are looking to go full time?
That's kind of hard. The best thing I can say is it's kind of antithetical to what you just said. Don't try to go full time. I think the best way to do it is do
True.
streaming as a hobby, because when you're doing it as a hobby, you don't feel pressured to hit anything.
Awesome.
To hit deadlines,
That's
and
exactly
you
what I do.
visibly are more entertaining and laid back to watch, and I've noticed that a lot. People will force it. They try to force it as their profession, and then they get too caught up in the numbers and get too stressed, and that reflects in their stream, and they're not pleasant to watch anymore. So start it as a hobby. If it takes off, great. If it doesn't, you didn't lose anything.
Yeah, I honestly I can back that up now that I've gone through gone through that, because like ever since I got myself like a real life job, and then I just do this when I have time, I'm so much better of an entertainer now.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm I'm happier. I'm not as angry. I'm not as
That's
like
good.
depressed. And if I need a break, I just take a break, and nobody second guesses it.
I'm happy
And
to
I'm
see
so
Kaiser in
guilty
a better
for
place,
taking off.
really.
Yep, definitely.
If you could start over and end up back at the same numbers you are now, but with a different game, what would you choose over Dead by Daylight?
Ooh, good question.
You might know I'm huge into From Software games like Dark Souls, Elden Ring, all that stuff. That's actually where I got my channel start and everything. I mean, I would love to do that. It's just those games are not really they're not like live service games. They come out, they might release a DLC, but then that's sort of it. You can't like stretch
That is
it for
true.
8 years like I've done with DBD. So I don't know. I don't really have much of an interest in any other live service games. I actually, despite occasionally bitching about the game or criticizing it, I do genuinely think it is a fantastic stream game because people honestly love watching it more than playing it sometimes. So I think it's great.
That's awesome.
I don't know. It's just like a perfect like B-roll game to have, even if I'm not interested in the current game that I'm playing. It's still, I don't know. I genuinely enjoy streaming it.
I think it's
If I could start over any game, I mean, I wish Outriders was a more popular game, Watch Dogs, but they're not really live service games or don't really have any content, so I'm happy with DVD.
it's just such a goofy game. That's
Yeah,
that's
for
one
sure.
of the main. It's just such silly shit happens.
Yep.
In it, and like
That's part of the charm.
Because like I think I've pretty much shed the I hate DVD mentality ever since I came back. I love this game. I honestly do. For all the stupid shit that's in it, you just can't take this game that damn seriously.
Yeah, for sure. Like those little tiny moments where like it's hard to describe. Like you'll stun a killer or something like that, and then you'll stand there and he'll stand there, and then he nods and then you nod. Just like those
Yeah.
little moments like
Yeah.
that is like the peak shit that I love about this
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, it's just, or you walk over and then you and a survivor teabag at each other, and then one of you blows a gin and you both stare at each other for a few
Yeah,
seconds.
exactly,
It's just-
exactly. Those little unspoken moments are
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, it's just such a great. I was telling Brain about this. I've been like addicted to JRM. The attitude he has for this game, I think is perfect. Like he could run into a hacker and he'll just be like, "Oh, I guess we're doing this now."
Kaiser, I think this is the second time I heard him talk about JRM. I really need to get around to watching some of his videos because I haven't really watched too many of his videos, I feel like.
Are there any major regrets you have about becoming a content creator?
No, without a doubt, the greatest thing that has happened in my life, hands down. Sorry for the short answer.
I think my thing would be I get obsessed with numbers at times. I'm can be a little hard on myself at times when it comes to that.
No, you're
Absolutely no regrets.
you're actually good. That's one of the things is I think you're the first. Yeah, of everybody on here, you're the first like veteran content creator I've ever had. The one that's been doing it for one that's been doing it for a fucking age at this point. So that was why I had it to ask, because like when you've been doing it for so long, you start to wonder if there are things that just aren't as glamorous as people make it out to be, you know?
I mean, I don't see any glamour in this. I'm just fucking like underwear and PJs every day. I'm not doing anything glamorous at all. It's just fun. I just love it.
I had to start. I took a picture of myself and like photoshopped it, and then I put like another one for a PNG too when I don't feel like putting on a shirt.
Yeah, that's nice.
Like, that's how.
It's nice to not have a webcam on sometimes. And just sit back in the gamer stance all the way back there. It's good.
I call it the South Park stance from the World
exactly.
of Warcraft
It is exactly.
episode.
Yep.
Couple D&D DBD
Oh
questions.
shit! I'll talk about D&D too. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll talk about D&D all fucking night. DBD questions, and then we'll pop into the community section. Do you think that tribalism will ever end in Dead by Daylight?
No,
Next question.
absolutely not.
I mean, just no. It absolutely will not. A lot of people that play this game are just immature. They cannot see past the role that they currently play, and it's always abundantly obvious when that's the case. But I mean, what can you do? They're not really gonna change their ways until something happens and they finally play the other role and they're like, oh, this is hard. Like this is this is not at all what I thought it was. So I feel like people that go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you think that the tribalism is built into the game?
Yes, inherently
I
so.
mean, it being asymmetrical and having different roles that are hard to understand for people that don't play the other side definitely does have an impact on it for sure. I don't really see that as much. Like, if you're playing like Counter-Strike or something like that, you're not going to be like, oh man, it's bullshit. Like, I can't do what the other side is doing. It's like, yeah, you can. You can do the exact same thing. So what are you like? What are you complaining about? But a lot of it really does come down to lack of empathy because they just truly only play one side. I think people that only play one side should just be banned from all discussions of balance just immediately.
I 100% agree. I had when I said that a while back, somebody called me elitist, and I was like, "Look, dude, I can't take you seriously if you don't play
It
both
is
sides."
a little elitist, but sometimes that's necessary. Like, I don't know. You gotta
Yeah.
be a little mean sometimes because
I think probably one of like the best examples of that is I was playing a game the other day during 2v8, and the survivors I was on a team with, they were upset at the Legion because they didn't realize Legion can see you in a locker using Killer Instinct and then saying Legion's overpowered. I'm like, no, 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 he's not. He's actually kind of weak still.
he just got Johnny 200 hours that only plays Survivor, and he's like talking about how easy Killer is. He tried it one time on people that have never played the game before, and it's just you just shouldn't really be talking about this stuff.
I mean, I saw a post earlier on Reddit. It's fucking Reddit. I understand, but bear with me.
Mhm.
But I saw a post on Reddit where somebody was like, the finisher Mori system was OP. It is OP, and they gave like this really niche scenario
Oh.
where everybody was two hooked, and then they saboed a hook, so the killer dropped the guy he was carrying, chased the other three out, and then he finisher Mori the last guy. And he was like, he would have wiggled out in that scenario, so he just got that kill for free. And I was like, you're fucking. I was like, do you play killer? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, so shut up. You're just wrong. You're just incorrect, and I don't know how to explain to you that you are.
Yeah.
Especially with hook
you brought up,
density.
like, people who don't play the other side. I've been actually thinking about like doing a discussion about this in general. I don't know if playing both sides next necessarily fixes people's attitude toward like the tribalism, because sometimes you'll come across someone who like mains a side and they have elitism like within their own side. Like, how many times have you heard somebody be like, I'm a killer main and I never tunnel camp slug or hit survivors and I win 85% of my games?
I mean, shit, I've said that before, so yeah.
True, I
I
guess.
really understand that is something that has happened.
Yeah, I don't know, because like I said, there's like elitism within roles too. It's just weird to me. Like, I did a NOED experiment recently because I watched, I don't know if you know who Mish is.
Yeah, I know Mish.
Yeah, I watched a Mish video, and this knight that she looped for 5 gens ended up killing her because he had NOED, and the totem spawned right next to the hook, which is just unfortunate.
Yeah.
And Mish just laughed it off like she does, and the comments were just full of people just bashing this knight, not because he BM'd, which is what I would expect, but because he ran NOED.
Are we still complaining about NOED in 2025? I feel like that's just not.
I need to use NOED more. I haven't used that in a while.
Yeah,
It's a classic.
One of the comments that got me intrigued, he was like, I'm a killer main, and if you run NOED, you're just bad at killer, because it's a perk that carries you to victory every game. And I was like, all right, time to pull a Scott Jund and experiment here. So,
and did it lead you to victory every game?
No, out of all, I played one game on all 38 killers with only NOED, and only 4 times did it lead me to victory. Out
Dang.
Of 38 games.
That's not a very high ratio.
No.
Guy might have been wrong.
Well, it's inherently like Barrel and Sun Killers and others, like it's Barrel and one type killers a lot of times, and high mobility killers. So, like on Psycho, it's pretty dang good. But if you're on just somebody like Pig, it's not the greatest. If she's in one killer, but she doesn't have high mobility. But then again, you can have a high mobility killer like Blight, but it's not good on him too much because he's already he's not really a M1 killer.
Do you think that DBD has a future as it is, or do they need to hurry up and just start recoding it from the ground up?
I mean, it would be wonderful if they did that. I just feel like there's not enough incentive for behavior to do that. And as long as that doesn't exceed the amount of money they would make from it, I guess I'm sure I don't know, economists or someone have devised
That's
some
good, man.
ratio that has figured out the time and money spent on a DBD2 does not exceed the amount we can get from just working on this one. Therefore, we're not doing it. That has to be like a simple calculation that they made. Otherwise, they would have done it. I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel that's fair. I bring it up because like I was talking about this before my hiatus. I think that like every single patch having a game breaking bug, I feel like at one point this game's just gonna fall apart. They're gonna put too much of a load on it.
True.
I don't know how much about coding, but
Mhm. I have to say I am genuinely impressed because the original form of this game, it was done on something called Blueprints, which if you're not familiar with that, it's like in Unreal Engine. It's sort of like a graphical user interface way to code where you can sort of like drag and drop things and like this visual web of stuff rather than actually just raw typing code. And that's what the foundation of the game was based on because they were all kind of new game devs. They didn't really know too much what they were doing. And since then, they have rectified a lot of that. And that blueprints are still fine to use in a lot of scenarios. But they've basically been building on a foundation of, inexperience. And they're way better at it now. But it doesn't matter how good you are. At a certain point, you can't fix a foundation that's bad. So that's why, yeah, like people say, hey, you should do DBD2. Now that you guys have had way more time to learn how to do this stuff, I'm sure you can make it far more stable. And, we shit on the devs a lot, but in all likelihood, they probably could. I think financially, there's not enough incentive for them to do that.
yeah.
The thing about that is I feel like it would be very, very beneficial to have a DBD2, especially like make DBD2 all about 2v8. I think it would be a much better sequel than like something like Overwatch, which went horribly, horribly wrong. The downside about doing a DBD2 though is the licensing issues. So I have a feeling they may not be able to get some license if they do a DBD2, such as like the Freddy Krueger license. I don't feel like they'll be able to do it.
And I think that's the hardest part because they're not just going through. It's not just hey devs do this and then the devs do it. They got to go to executives. They got to go to shareholders. They got to justify their decision.
So much bullshit they have to go through. Yeah, it's just.
Yeah. And honestly, I've people talk shit on Matthew Cote, but honestly, everything I know about the man,
I like him.
He's just based, bro.
I love Matthew Cote. He did, like I'm saying, the original Go Play Civ 5 thing was genuinely good advice. I defend that all the time. Because he was just saying, if you're fed up with the game, go do something else for a little while.
Yeah.
He's not saying, uninstall our game, I hate DVD, blah, blah, blah. Of course, people interpret it as that because they're disingenuous. But, like, he was just saying, if you're having a bad time, just go chill. And I think that's great advice.
Yeah. Did you see the Slasher interview he just did?
Yeah, I think that's very good. That's one of the reasons I love Matthew Cote. He's real, and I can appreciate realness.
He was talking about, so people were speculating when he followed like a Jason account, the official Jason account, and he straight up said, he goes, sometimes I follow random social media just to fuck with people.
Yeah, I see that. I think that is absolutely hilarious.
I was like, that's the most base thing I've ever heard from a lead dev. And I think Matthew genuinely does care for the player base and does care for his game. Like, I feel like he goes out of his way to try to be a good lead dev. I don't really understand the hate around him.
It literally is just from that one Civ comment, and people have just circle jerked it to death. It's really dumb. There's nothing else he's done that's really like bad or offensive or anything. I don't get it either.
That's actually, that actually brings up a good point. You've been playing DBD since its beta, huh? Or
well, I played it actually when it first came out, but I didn't like get into it until Leatherface. Like I tried it a couple times and I hated it when it first came out, and then it came back a year later.
That's fair enough. I was gonna ask, is like, have you noticed like a trend of the community just like holding old comments? Like they hold on to like basically a grudge. Like the devs did something like 5 years ago and like they still repeat it as like a reason why behavior sucks.
I mean, that's just the internet in general. They never forget. That's just that applies to everything on the internet.
You know what?
I have said some less than reputable words on the internet, like over a decade ago, and it still applies to me right now. So that shit, yeah, it never goes away on the internet.
Yep. Got a point. Well, we have a few questions from the community, quite a
Okay.
few actually. So I thought
Oh, cool.
I thought it would be fun. We normally only pick like a handful, but I thought it would be fun because it's you to see what everybody else has to say to you. So the first one we have is from Kasir. They have two. It's a two-parter question. The first one is they want to know if you're going to redo the Oh Bubba song from 2019.
No, that is a certified classic. It cannot be perfected any further.
It cannot get any better.
Question is, when it comes to killer design in DBD, do you think that killers should be designed more around fun for all players or opportunity for skillful play? An example being someone like Trickster, who is relatively hated by Survivor players but does have an opportunity for skillful play.
That's a good question. I mean, ideally, in a fantasy world, you hit both of them. But I do think the fun is more important than the capacity for a high skill ceiling. I personally want a high skill ceiling because I've been playing this game forever and I want a killer that I can't master in 2 days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in that scenario, me personally, yeah, I would prefer a higher skill ceiling. But for the overall health of the game, I would have to say the fun aspect is way more important.
I wonder
I would absolutely agree as well.
if it's even possible to design fun for all players at this point in the game's lifespan.
No,
I've heard
you
every
can't.
single killer get complained about.
It's not possible. All you can do is minimize the amount of people that do hate it. And there's been a couple of killers that have sort of approached that. I honestly, one of the most liked killers in the game right now, and it wasn't the case back when face camping was a thing, but I feel like everyone loves Bubba now. I
Yeah.
rarely see people complain about Bubba. So there are a couple that do exist like that, but I guess you can really just try to get as close as possible because I still guarantee people hate Bubba too. So
I feel like he's weaker.
Toby Keefe, 2400 asks, "Why are you so adorable?"
what am I supposed to answer this? What am I supposed to say, man? There's no correct answer. I acknowledge it. I'm self-absorbed. I don't acknowledge it. Then I'm being like
Yeah.
ungrateful.
Dude,
I just know.
that's how.
All right, I have an answer. I think it's probably because. And here you go.
I feel the same way. My eyes are like my only notable feature that people ever seem to compliment, and every time somebody compliments me on them, I'm like, I don't know how to respond to that. I'm
just stand there with my hands up and just look at my hands. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. The Doomslayer says, "What was the hardest year to both enjoy playing and making videos on DVD? The worst year that had you genuinely questioning if being a DVD YouTuber / streamer was a bad choice, and if you could stand to keep doing it, if there was one."
It was kind of. There were 2 times. One was Original Legion. Original Legion made the game basically unplayable, at least as Survivor, for like over. God, I don't even know. It was several months because if you encountered the old Legion on Survivor, no one would play. Everyone would just disconnect. No one even bothered because there was no actual. Are you familiar with the old Legion, like how it worked?
Vaguely. I think our Deatha did a video on it already. That was when he could just keep reducing your deep wound timer by just
Right,
hitting
yes.
you.
So there was an add-on called Frank's Mixtape. Basically, he can remove half your bleed out timer like per hit, and also the deep wound was based on whether or not you were in a chase, not whether or not you were running. So they would hit you and drop chase and follow you backwards, and you would just drop dead. There was no counterplay. It was the dumbest thing they've ever made. Even McCoy was like embarrassed about it. So that was really bad. That was one of the first times I was like, I can't. Like that entire month, I just didn't want to do anything. The second time was, it was Skull Merchant. It actually, I know it's such like it's a generic answer, but Skull Merchant was a rough time in this game's lifespan. It was a new killer. Like it came right after the Knight too, who I didn't like. The Knight was also pretty boring. So we went from Wesker to Knight, which was like the greatest downgrade of all time in terms of like fun. So I was riding high in Wesker, and then Knight came out. I was like, ugh, okay, maybe the next killer will be more fun. And then we got Skull Merchant, which was not more fun and was, again, since the old Legion, the most miserable thing that the game had ever seen. So we had a period there of, over 6 months where there was just nothing engaging for me to do, and that was pretty rough. That was pretty rough.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
See, I would disagree. Like, I enjoyed those methods. I didn't mind them at all. I thought it was a kind of nice change up. Given that I also did probably play 75% killer that time, I still found it pretty fun. I like the change up in metas. And as may as looking for rose tinted glasses, but I thought it was pretty enjoyable.
Because like I started in Knight's PTB is when I started playing DBD. And so between Knight and then when Skull Merchant dropped, I was still new to the game, so I still had like the new game euphoria almost. And
Oh yeah.
I genuinely don't remember Knight and Skull Merchant being that bad because I was not good enough at the game yet to understand how
Same.
bad they used to be. And so whenever people talk about how much they hated OG Skull Merchant,
But at the same time, like I almost had 2,000 hours at that point, and I still like enjoyed it. I still found it'd be a fun time to play DVD.
I can't relate because by the time I got good enough to understand how bad she was, they had already reworked her ass.
Yeah, basically, in a nutshell, I mean, I'm sure you've seen videos about her too,
Mhm.
but in a nutshell, it was basically, at least at the higher level, it was just every game was an hour-long match until the server would time out because there was no gen kick like limit, so it was during Colubrine Eruption Overcharge 2, which I'm not sure if you remember, but it was the
Yeah.
gen kick meta where you could just kick gens forever and essentially make games unable to complete, and then the server would time out, and that counts as a win for the killer. So there were people doing that like religiously as if they just wanted to torture people. Like people were actually doing it maliciously just to piss people off, and I don't understand like that level of like psycho energy that is out there. It's like legit psychopath energy.
Yeah.
They're only doing it to make people miserable. Like why?
I
But
wonder if
yeah,
you
that
can
was
still do
a good
that.
time. I didn't realize that you were so relatively new to the game.
Mhm.
I kind of figured you've been here a while, but Night is not too long ago, just a couple years, right?
Yep, just a couple years. And I've already broke 2,500 hours. My addiction to this
Oh,
game
damn.
is yeah.
You are on your way to depression. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, speaking of the Skull Merchant, do you with the recent reworks, Freddy, I think Knight was pretty successful. Freddy was pretty successful in my opinion, although I know you found it kind of meh.
It's just nah. It's fine. It's
Do
fine.
you,
It's just
do you think the Skull Merchant rework is going to be at like that quality of rework that they've been pumping out lately?
I can only hope for that I get a meh. Like I would be happy for a meh with her. So if they give us a meh, that's fine because she is fundamentally really hard to make engaging and also requires skill. Like there are so many fundamental issues with the idea of putting a low like zoning drone at a loop and then causing that to be an issue. Like it's just good luck. I don't know. I
Yeah.
can't wait to see what they do, but I am not optimistic, I guess.
I feel that.
I feel like it's definitely possible to rework Skull Merchant into a good killer. I felt like she's nearly perfect in her version 2 state. Um, they just need to remove that variable haste and hinder effect, and maybe bust some other areas of her. But you being able to see the drones at all time, that was a great change. The me game is still fun and interactive. I love it.
Echo Gecko says, since he's a longtime player, can you please ask what he thinks of DVD's community in the past, circa 2016 to 2020, compared to now, and if you think it's changed for the better or worse?
It's definitely changed for the worse. Not too much more, but it definitely has, and that's just because people have put more hours into it. It's a lot of combination of people being burnt out on the game and still playing it. So, like the whole Go Next epidemic thing, that didn't exist. Everyone was kind of new, so everyone had that exact same, like you said, the new player euphoria. You're like, oh, wow, there's a silly trapper sitting on top of my hook.
Yeah.
That's silly. Like you don't really like care. But the community definitely was less prone to complaining because there was less shit that was figured out. I feel like the more shit that you figure out, the more complaining happens. Because when you don't know something, you
True.
introduce the possibility of maybe I just don't understand this yet. Maybe
Yeah.
it's not bullshit. Maybe I don't understand the game yet. So there was a lot more of that. So yeah, it's definitely gotten worse. The tribalism has gotten worse. Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but the community has definitely gotten worse.
Yeah. Was the level of entitlement in this community? I don't know about you. We're about the same age. I'm 31. I think you're 34, 35?
35.
35. In my
I think I didn't realize Scott
I've
was
never come
so
across
old.
a gaming community that is more entitled than the DVD community.
Yeah,
I don't think.
I agree. I can think of more toxic communities. I can think of more just horrible communities in general. I've played
I can agree.
Dota for 10 years, so that God, the amount of toxicity in MOBAs and League and all that stuff is, oh my lord. But in terms of entitlement, people thinking that their fun is the only thing that matters, yeah, I would say DVD is the single worst. I never call this community toxic because I don't really think it is for the most part, but entitled to an unbelievable degree.
Yeah, I think this might be, in terms of toxicity, I think the place that this community outdoes every other community, this seems to be the only one where people will go like way too far out of their way to insult you for the way that you play the game, like trying to win the game. The amount of Twitter rants that people go on, this killer brought 4 slowdowns and we still 4 outed him. Ha ha ha. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Okay. That's weird, but sure. Go for it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't see that. Like, no one's making, like, I don't know, a Call of Duty montage. This guy brought, the...
That is true.
Danger close. Like, what? No one's doing that. It really, that is heavily just in the DVD community.
Yeah.
I agree.
Jay Matsu, it looks like we're back on killer reworks. The good and the bad, we have killers like Dr. Freddy, Hillbilly, where the reworks were considered success. But then we have reworks like the Twins. The Twins wasn't reworked, but okay. Sadako 2.0, Trickster, and Skull Merchant that were massive failures, disliked by the mass majority. The Skull Merchant, I don't think the Skull Merchant rework was disliked. Sorry, I'm giving my own opinion here. I don't think the Skull Merchant rework was disliked. I think people just had a bad first impression of her, and that never changed. And then they completely gutted her. They just fucking took her out back.
Okay, you're talking about the second version of her, not the current version. Okay.
Yeah.
I can kind of agree with that. I actually think the second version of Skull Merchant was not nearly as problematic, but sorry, go on.
No, you're good. So basically, they just want to know what your thoughts on reworks in generals are?
Like, are they good, or like...
I have no idea. The whole thing says, I'm going to read it front to back. Viewpoint on killer reworks, the good and the bad. We have killers like Dr. Freddy, Hillbilly, where the reworks were considered a success from the public eye. But then we have reworks like Twins, Sadako 2.0, Trickster, and Skull Merchant that were massive failure, disliked by most majority of players. Even some of their mains don't like the changes. I'm not quite sure what you're asking here, Jay.
Yeah, I don't know what they're asking either.
It's just like good and bad killer reworks exist. Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you. Hopefully you can reword that in the comments section.
Yeah, it needs to be a little bit more specific.
Tell you what he thinks. Ridley Blight. This will probably come across as spiteful or negative, but I genuinely mean this as a legitimate question and conversation start. They wrote 3 paragraphs. Okay.
Oh.
While you've played DVD as long and as frequently as when you've played DVD as long and as frequently as Scott or Otts and the like, do you even perceive the game from a casual player's perspective anymore? Decently active in the game, but don't pay much attention to the social side of the community outside of YouTubers and some streamers like Lilith, Mr. Headache, and hey, me. Hey, I'm on there. Even with this, it seems like creators on Scott's level see the game completely different than the casual players do. I mean, I think we do, sure, but whenever I see creators all talking about the blank epidemic or the blank problem, I never see the issues in my game sessions. I play the game easily 3 to 4 days a week, sure, only for an hour or 2 as opposed to 5 to 10 as content creators do, but my matches never go any differently than they always have, with slight variations with new perks and characters. Creators like Scott also talk a lot about certain gameplay tactics or game features that they perceive as common knowledge, quote, unless you're a drooling idiot. You do say that a lot. Again, not making an attack or anything, just proposing the legitimate question, is it fair to treat casual players like this or expect absolutely everyone who thinks about playing DVD to understand every single tiny tech? I don't know that we treat casual players differently. I mean, we have to acknowledge that casual players just simply don't know as much as we do. But yeah, I would say that it's hard to see it from a casual's perspective, I guess. What do you
It is.
So something I
It's
kind of
hard to
realized
unlearn
recently
things.
is that usually casual players they're not even watching us. They
Mhm.
just they don't really even care about content creation. They don't read patch notes. They still think Skull Merchant is the original version. They're not even like they just
True.
launch the game for an hour and then just do whatever they're doing. Like they don't spend their time on Reddit and forums and YouTube and they're not like looking up a lot of these videos. So I tend to have my videos catered to a bit, at least a bit above that, not like a competitive level or anything like that,
Mhm.
but just a bit above that. Because at this point, I just assume they truly casual players are not even watching content for the game. Like they might throw on a compilation video or something like that, but they're not watching my deep, in-depth discussion videos. Why would they care about that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I do agree. I don't really cater to that, and a lot of the time, I do assume the person watching has a bit more knowledge about the game. Not like an advanced expert or anything, but they at least kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's really anything wrong with that because I think if I catered all of my conversations to, playing 1 hour every other day players, my they I'm not sure how to word this. I feel like there wouldn't be a point to it
Yeah.
because they're not what I'm saying doesn't matter to them anyway. So
Yeah.
it would just be a waste of content, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And like they had like they have a couple questions. If you don't have the dedication and time
True.
to learn the game, then 10th level should you even pick it up? I believe so. I think the game is more fun when you don't have as much knowledge about it. To be real with you.
Oh yeah.
Is it fair to limit the game to all or nothing? And I don't think that's really what we as creators do. I think that when Scott says something like "unless you're a drooling idiot," or when I say something like "don't be a fucking moron" or something like that, when it comes to certain things, we're talking specifically to the people who aren't casuals, right? We're talking to the people who should know better, right? When we say
Exactly.
when we say stop DCing against current Skull Merchant because she's been gutted, we're not talking to you. Right, we're not talking to the dad of 3 kids who gets an hour to play, once a week. We're not talking to him. Because he probably,
And I will say that is one thing I feel like there's not enough distincts. Ugh, words are hard. Distinction when words are when they're addressing the audience that way a lot of times because there can be some really harsh rules or insults if you're coming into the conversation and you don't really know the content creators and you're not really sure who in the audience they're talking to. So I think having some more distinction would be um better for a community.
it doesn't really matter what he does. We're talking to the people who know better. Um, so yeah, Scott's right. I said this before as well. Like most people who play video games are not online at all. They don't read patch notes. They don't. My favorite story. I was when I was an Overwatch player. Cassidy got a rework, and his grenade could now stop movement abilities. And I loaded into a ranked game, and my tank was a Hammond, and the Hammond went up to pile drive. He got hindered by the Cassidy grenade. He typed in the chat. He went, "What? Hindered?" And I said, "New patch. He can stop movement abilities." And the dude insta DC'd, like just right then and there. And that proved to me like most people don't fucking pay attention. So yeah, if you feel insulted by Scott or me or something like that, Ridley, I'm at least sorry, but just know we're not talking to you when we say comments like "don't be a fucking idiot." Like I'm not talking to you, and I don't think Scott is either. We're talking to people who should know better. 100%.
To me, like it's basically like when Gordon Ramsay yells at people like on the chef shows that should be professional chefs that like should know what they're talking about. It's sort of like that. We're not talking to like babies that are just like you said, just playing an hour a day. It's not the target for that. But I can understand how that can seem insulting.
That's a
Yeah,
good
We're
example.
not specifying every time when we say that.
Yeah, exactly. Noob King 3000 says, if you could only run one build for the rest of time, what would it be? Lightborn and Lightborn only.
Yeah, Lightborn only.
That's pretty base. One build for all time, like for every killer.
I would assume so.
I might go with the quad hex setup. It kind of works on almost everybody. Where you just run like Pentimento and then like Rune and then Undying or Thrill, and then something else.
Then
I
no
feel
Undying.
like that's even if all your totems
Plaything,
are broken, you still lose
Pentimento.
value. Whereas if I bring something like Painterest, I might not be able to get to the hook, or I don't know. I feel like every time I run that totem build, I at least get some value in some way, even if all my shit's broken within 2 minutes. It still meant they spent, a minute and a half breaking totems, so it's still some form of game delay. What about you?
Lightborn
Very
only
sloppy,
because
I guess.
I hate flashlights with a burning passion. I'm photosensitive. So
that can be rough.
Bright lights really hurt my eyes. Honestly, if I'm giving a serious answer, it would probably be some sort of like M1 build, rapid, save the best for last, sloppy surge is like one of my favorite go-tos on M1 builders.
Yeah,
that's like that's just what I run. So that would probably be mine, honestly.
Did you play back before the blind screen got changed? I think they changed that before.
I didn't. Yeah, they
okay.
I think actually the if I remember someone telling me correctly, the blind change came in like the year that I started, but like 6 months earlier or something like that.
Yeah, it was. That's good because that shit was rough. That was like I don't even have photosensitivity and that shit sucked. So
yeah, it did.
Yeah, apparently it used to be like I watched the video where Kote got like bullied on Hag. And
the Hag game.
It's just a white screen.
The entire game.
I don't think I would have ever taken Lightborn off in those days to be.
I mean, Lightborn didn't even prevent that. It just made it harder to blind you too, so you would still get blinded.
Oh dang! I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
that'd be rough.
I would be a survivor main or just don't
play.
Yeah, there you go. Scat Personal says, this is interesting. Why is there such a weird connection between Soulsborne fans and DBD fans? As a DBD player turned Soulsborne enjoyer, it's so weird seeing content creators I love have videos from years ago playing DS2 or DS3 and now cover DBD, because both you and Otts used to be from creators, right?
That's true.
I get this question a lot, and I truly never understand it because I can name like 3 content creators that were DBD or that were Dark Souls related that came to DBD. Like, can you name more than that?
I only know of you and Otts.
I can think like seriously, I can think of like 2 or 3 more. I don't know why people keep repeating this because it's just like there's never any examples. They always bring up like Otts and then me. And then that's it. They're like, why are there so many people? And then they name like 3 people. So I don't know why people keep repeating that. But if I had to give another answer, it's because like Dark Souls 3, for example, was a very popular game. And so was DBD. It's 2 popular games. They're going to have some crossover. It's not some like big, conspiracy. Dark Souls 3 sold like 13 million copies. That's a lot of people in the pool.
I guess so.
They're going to have some crossover. So there's no big secret or anything. It's just popular game. That's it.
It's fair enough.
Gosh, finally hop on.
The GOAT says, do you care or like the lore of DBD?
I think the fundamental concept, I love like Eldritch Cthulhu stuff. I think all that stuff is really fascinating. So I think the whole idea of the entity is really cool. I like the
I do love the lore.
In terms of like individual character lore, I don't really care. Every time I've tried to read it, I'm just like, okay, and just move on. But I think the world that they're in is really cool. And that's why I think like the whole casting of Frankstone thing, I kind of wish that game was a little bit better because I like that idea of more things in that world. But yeah, in terms of individual stuff, I don't really care.
Yeah, no, I'm just now getting into the lore because I have a series where I like analyze killers, like everything about them. And I'll tell you right now, the earlier killers, some of that lore is the most dull, boring shit I've ever read in my life.
It's so bad.
It's so shit. Like the Hag lore was so bad it actually pissed me off. I actually got mad.
The first piece of lore I read in this game was Claudette's backstory. Is literally she was like she liked flowers. She got on bus, then she was in fog. Scary. That's it. That was like the whole story. Yeah. I was like, wow, I'm never reading these again. I mean, they got a lot better. They actually I think hired real writers and stuff like that, and old tomes and stuff. So they definitely got better. But
the lore nowadays is phenomenal.
Archangel Michael Hawking, what a name. What is your favorite ice cream flavor? And he said it's crucial information.
Is
chocolate chip, but it has to be colored green. If it's not colored green, then it tastes worse. I can't explain it.
Actually, I would high five you if we were sitting across from each other because that is my answer too.
Hell yeah, dude! It's so refreshing. It's like
what?
So refreshing at the same time.
I'm not sure I can watch these guys no more.
Color one,
yeah.
worse. It's just
Yeah,
objectively
the
worse.
white one
I don't know why.
never tastes correct.
Ugh.
I have a mini fridge with a freezer, and I actually have a whole fucking gallon of mint chocolate chip ice cream just sitting in there.
I love ice cream, but
Hot
it's not
Soup
my
says, "Do you
favorite at
think
all.
there's any type of killer that's missing from the roster, like a play style that hasn't really been explored?"
Yeah. There's two possible things. One is sort of like an RTS view, like a top-down commander of like multiple units, but that's like the entire killer, something like that. And then I want to see something more physics-based. Like
that'd
I
be
was bringing up
cool.
this example. I want like a Spider-Man type web slinging thing where you shoot at one side of a loop and you use your momentum to actually like rotate around it and fling off in a corner like whenever you. There's no physics-based killers, and I would
Yeah.
love to see something like that.
The funny thing about the
That would be
Spider-Man
cool.
comment, sorry,
Yep.
is the reply to that question is Doomslayer5863 says, "This one I actually remember what he said. He always wanted a Spider-Man-like killer. You shoot
Yeah.
out somewhere."
Yeah.
Yep.
Call me. I'm actually interested in the RTS idea. Would that be possible from a console perspective?
See, that's a good point. I know there are RTSs on console that like it can work. You have to make it very basic. Obviously, you're not doing, Korean StarCraft 2 300
Yeah.
APM shit. That's never gonna work.
Yeah.
But I think there are ways to do that. But I haven't really given it any more thought than what I just said. So
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
no, I get you now because I'm a big RTS fan. One of my top 5 favorite games is Age of Empires 2.
Oh yeah, great game.
So I play. I've actually been playing. Have you played 4?
I have not played 4 now. I
It's-
stopped RTSs with StarCraft 2. That was my last one.
Fair enough. If you ever get back into him, Age of Empires 4, because Age of Empires 3 was shit. It was so bad. But 4 like brought back like the traditional like kind of what Age of Empires was, and it's so amazing. I play it almost every day.
Oh nice.
Lipton. What is this name? Lipton Pipton. Amazing. Says, what is the most underrated and overrated killer in DBD from an overall design standpoint?
So are we talking about like reception to the community? Like everyone thinks, oh, this killer is so cool, or like
Yeah, that's a very
I would
vague
say
question.
reception to the community.
I'll have to look at the list of killers here. So it's a killer that everyone thinks is cool, but is not that cool. You know what? I have a good answer for that. Dredge. I think the Dredge visually is awesome, and I think like the whole concept of the Dredge is cool, but I find the Dredge like super underwhelming and honestly a pretty weak killer. I think like he looks so cool, like aesthetically probably the coolest killer in the game even,
Yeah.
but his power is super incredibly frustratingly map dependent, and then his remnant power is just basically a boring 50-50 thing. I don't know. I think he's not very cool at all.
Yeah. Underrated
Interesting.
or overrated. Honestly, I think that Lilith's gonna kill me for this one, but I think Blight's kind of
Don't say
overrated.
Blight! Oh god.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's
like,
Blight.
He's cool and like I have
Everybody
fun
plays
playing him,
Blight.
but like I just don't.
He's so naturally
I
strong.
just don't have as much fun on him as I do on like most of the other killers. Like if
Yeah.
Favorite killer.
Billy.
Oh, I mean that's a good answer. I don't think anyone would ever fault you for saying Billy.
Yeah, I'm a hillbilly main.
Nice.
So like if I want mobility, I choose hillbilly. If I want, some sort of map traversal, I honestly, and again, people might hate me for this, I'll choose like Freddy, like new Freddy, because I like find his map mobility much more fun to utilize. I don't know why. I think it's just the way. I think honestly, the map mobility combined with turning pallets into fucking claymores is just so fun. But yeah, I would say Blight's a little overrated in my opinion, to be honest.
A bit overrated.
You know what? I think Vecna's underrated. I don't see enough people give Vecna love.
I feel like he's rated. I don't know. I feel like he's very, very neutral. Like I don't see.
Yeah, I
people
see
really
him
loving
as
him. He just
neutral.
doesn't exist. I love Vecna because I'm a huge D&D fan, and I mean I like Matt Mercer too. So I'm a huge Vecna fan. But I do get a little sad when I feel like Dracula has basically completely invalidated him. He's just better in almost every way. in terms of having like 3 different powers. So that made me sad.
Yeah, it was kind of odd because like Vecna released and like the way you play against Vecna is like fundamentally different than any other killer.
Oh
And
yeah,
then Dracula dropped, and they were like new Swiss Army knife killer, and I was like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
okay.
That's a perfect way to describe it. Swiss Army knife. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. The last question. Oh, you're underrated. Almost forgot.
Oh, underrated.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say Nemesis, but he actually got buffed, so now people know that he's
Yeah.
pretty good. Yeah, it's actually pretty hard. I can't even say Oni because people know that Oni is strong too. Shit, that's a hard question. Underrated. Wraith. I'll go with Wraith. I think.
Yeah,
Wraith
that's
is
a good
actually
answer.
genuinely a strong killer, and some people just think he's like, yeah, he's pretty good. I think Wraith is, in terms of not necessarily like design, because he's not very interesting. It's just bing bong and invisible.
Yeah.
But I think Wraith has always been definitely underrated, and like all of my longest win streaks are always with Wraith for some reason. So
Yeah.
I gotta go for that.
Yeah. And like when I first did, so I'm one of the people that finds Wraith to be like very average. Like if I were to rank killers by averageness, he would be the most average killer in the game.
That's fair.
In my opinion. And when I first made a video stating that, people were like, "Don't let Scott see this video; he'll get mad." And I'm like, "I'm sure."
I'm not gonna.
Mhm.
I'm not married to old Philip here, and I don't care. You do what you want.
But our last question from the community section comes from Bot Whisperer.
I feel like mine
and
be
they wanna
Sako.
know, dub or sub? That way, the us versus them will be about something other than DBD for a few minutes.
I don't. My audience knows I am not a fan of the Japanese arts, as they say. So I don't like anime like at all. I've only ever watched 2 that I actually enjoyed.
Oh, that's
And,
sad.
You know what? I'm a cold-blooded American. I speak in your freaky deaky Japanese language, so you know what? I am all about the sub, even if it's bad. Like I watched the Squid Game sub, and holy shit, that was terrible.
I like
It was
dub.
awful, and I still prefer that over reading it. So
Yeah, no, I go with subtitles because I have a hearing disability.
Oh,
So
well, yeah.
I'm reading the fucking words anyway.
That's fair.
But yeah.
Dub, and then
that
I'll
was all
sub
our
it.
community questions. Well, Scott, is there anything left you want to say to everybody watching tonight?
No, I was gonna say thanks for having me. This was fun. I always appreciate having a good little powwow here. So it's a good time.
Yeah, it was actually great. I'm glad we finally get to do this. We've only been planning it for like 4 fucking months.
Dude, it's the most delayed thing ever. Yeah, we finally did it. That's good.
Yeah, people at my community has been, because I was like, oh, I reached out to Scott and he said yes, but we were waiting a couple months for some things, and I like at least once a week I'd be like, hey, weren't you gonna get Scott on the channel? So, but if you want to join me for one last thing, thanking our channel members, listen on screen now if you.
Yep. So with that being said, yeah, I really like that video. That was probably one of my favorite videos. Nice, short, concise. Answered a bunch of questions. Kind of wish it lasted a little bit longer. I was enjoying the conversation. Make sure you give them both, Jojo R. Kaiser and Scott John, a like and follow. They're excellent content creators and they're great guys. So I hope everybody has a great and wonderful night. I will see y'all in the fog. Bye bye. Have a return to self.